Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Kris. This is the third video, Shocking Stories and Twisted Tales. This is by Cadaver. See me, I click that. If you could click the thumbs up button, that helps me out tremendously. Click the subscribe button. Both of those are free. Now, you can click the thanks button and financially donate to the channel. All donations are appreciated. If you donate and you request a video, your name will be sponsoring that video. It's my way of saying thank you, and it's kind of honoring you for doing it. You can still request videos without donating. You request videos by just putting it up in the comments section. A lot of people have been asking, how do you do it? There's nothing special. Just leave it in the comments section. I do my best to get to everyone. I'm not always perfect, but throw it in the comments section. I'll just say this video is requested, but I won't shout you out. Just the difference. All right, so let's get into this third part. I know about the this first one, Darsh Patel, Mary Vincent. I don't know. So let's get into it.
The old expression of a picture being worth 1,000 words has stood the test of time repeatedly. From the 1932 picture of lunch atop a skyscraper, the 1989 photo of Tank Man, and the 1936 photograph of Migrant Mother are just a few iconic pictures that have etched their way into history. There are hundreds of pictures that have been cemented in our brains that depict joy, sadness, courage, and overall, life. In 2014, 22-year-old college student Darsh Patel took a picture. It wasn't a beautiful shot of nature or a group picture with his friends. Instead, it was a picture of a bear, and that bear would be the reason why Darsh would never leave those woods alive. On September 21, 2014, Darsh Patel went hiking in the Apshawa Preserve in West Milford, New Jersey. Along with his 4 friends, the group enjoyed the natural beauty of the area and were spending the day walking the various trails. A couple, separate from Darsh's group, were also walking on the preserve when they noticed that a massive black bear was nearby. Knowing of how dangerous that situation could be, the couple turned around and made their way out of the area. That same couple quickly ran into Darsh and his friends and warned them of the bear sighting and insisted they turn around also. Unfortunately, Darsh and his friends continued their path and wanted to see the bear for themselves. Not long after this, they did in fact see the massive 300-pound black bear, and from what they thought was a safe distance, began to take pictures of it. This was the final photograph that Darsh Patel took. At this point, the bear was less than 30 feet away from them. Realizing that the bear was slowly approaching, the group decided to start making their way back out of the preserve. As they did this, they kept noticing that the bear was quickly closing the distance behind them. Then, the worst thing that could have happened did. The bear broke out into a full sprint. It may come as either a little shock or a complete surprise, but bears, despite their size, can move very quickly, upwards of 35 miles per hour. For reference, Usain Bolt, who many regard as the fastest human in the world, can only run 27 miles per hour. Running from a bear is what many consider fatal, and they will not be able to beat it in a foot race. And that the only hope is to try to get to an elevated position where the bear cannot climb. Darsh and his friends broke into a full-on run, and eventually the group got separated. Darsh was the unfortunate one that the bear decided to pursue. Darsh was last seen by his friends attempting to climb a rock and was yelling at his friends to keep running. After his friends made it to the end of the preserve, they noticed that Darsh wasn't there. His friends quickly called police, and once they arrived, they began searching the area, on high alert, knowing what was stalking around in the woods. About 2 hours after police arrived, they found the bear, as well as the lifeless body of Darsh Patel. The bear was put down by police, and after confirming the area was clear, Darsh's body was recovered, and his phone was able to be salvaged. Even though the phone itself had a bite mark in it from the bear, it was still able to have its contents removed, which in turn led to those pictures that Darsh took to be released to the public. After the tragic event, many were puzzled that the attack even took place. Darsh's friends insisted they did nothing to provoke the bear, and even then, most bears are typically fearful of humans, especially black bears. The Department of Ecology, Evolution, and Natural Resources had this to say about the attack. Most bear attacks are defensive, and the bear provides many warning signs. Predatory attacks do not have the same warning signs and can escalate without much warning at all. Lynn Rogers, a biologist with the Wildlife Research Institute, was quoted as saying about one black bear out of 1 million would have done that. Which makes sense, given that in the past century, there have only been 6 recorded black bear attacks. This truly looks like it was ultimately a very unfortunate and tragic event. If any of you are avid hikers, take this story as a warning to always be careful and observant when in an area where potential predators call home.
Yeah, I knew about that because of the photo, and yeah, it's very unpleasant.
The story of Mary Vincent has been labeled by many as proof that evil does in fact exist in our world, and that those who are responsible for these acts do not look like the monsters that movies depict, but instead they don't stand out. In fact, they blend in, appearing as anyone, someone who you could see at the movies, or at a bar, or at a football game. They are hardly ever easy to spot, and rarely do these people allow anyone to see their evil side. Just like the 3 people that you are seeing on screen right now. Normal looking people, right? Would you be surprised to know that all 3 of them have one thing in common? They're all serial killers. Don't be embarrassed or feel dumb for not knowing, because as I said, evil people don't just stand out as, well, evil. The point that I am trying to make here is that when Mary Vincent got into a van belonging to a man named Lawrence Singleton on September 29, 1978, she had no idea that she was getting into the car with someone that many have since claimed to be a walking version of rage, hate, and you guessed it, evil. Mary Vincent was 15 at the time and was hitchhiking from Las Vegas, Nevada to Berkeley, California. An over 500-mile distance that would have easily taken her over a week on foot. Mary was going through a bitter time in her young life. Her parents were
Hitchhiking back in the days it was ridiculous. The fact that people did it and survived. Like, I see someone hitchhiking now, all I'm thinking of is, that's probably a murderer. I'm not stopping. If they were to hitchhike and stand out in front of the road, I would hit them if they were out just like really obstructing my view. I would try to avoid them, but I'd give them a little how do you do as I was driving by. Yeah, like I don't trust anybody. Anybody walking with their thumb up, as far as I'm concerned, yep, they're a murderer.
going through a divorce. Her boyfriend had recently been arrested, and at one point Mary was homeless and sleeping in abandoned cars. Deciding that she needed to make a change for herself, she figured a new location to start over would be a great way to do that. So she packed what she had and started making her way to her grandmother's house in Berkeley, California. Hitchhiking along the way, and as risky as we all know it is today, it was simply a different time back then. She actually made it to her grandmother's, yet while she was there, she grew homesick and decided to hitchhike back to Las Vegas. A choice that would change her life forever. While making her way back home, a van slowed down beside her and offered her a lift. The driver was a man by the name of Lawrence Singleton. Appearing to be a friendly man, greeting Mary with a smile, and even telling her that he had a daughter her age and wouldn't want her doing something as risky as hitchhiking. He told her that he was going to Reno, but had no problem taking her to Las Vegas. Little did Mary know, but Lawrence was just out of his second divorce. He did in fact have a daughter Mary's age, but the relationship he had with her was anything but close. He also had a serious history with abuse. Mary was unaware of all of this as she got in the passenger seat. As the trip started, all seemed normal, yet things took a very creepy turn when Lawrence put his hand on the back of Mary's neck and asked if she felt all right. Mary, not liking to be touched, brushed away his hand and told him not to touch her again. Lawrence apologized, and that was enough to Mary. She eventually settled in and took a nap. As the trip continued, the van eventually came to a stop, and Lawrence told Mary that he had to use the bathroom. Mary exited the vehicle while he did this and began to stretch her legs. It was then that as she bent down to tie her shoes, everything went black. Lawrence had struck her over the head, and Mary immediately fell into unconsciousness. The next thing she knew, she was in the back of the van and her hands were restrained behind her. What followed were acts so horrible I cannot mention them on YouTube. I will just say that what happened to Mary in the back of that van are things that no person should ever have to experience. When everything was done and Mary woke up, the van had stopped and Lawrence was pulling her out of the van. On the side of the road, she begged him to let her go. She begged him to please set me free. Lawrence responded to this by walking back to his van and coming back with a machete. He then, shockingly, held Mary down and swung the blade at the ground.
I've heard a podcast actually regarding this guy now because I know about this incident. And this is beyond disturbing and how he's telling the story. Because I know details that aren't worth knowing. Now they're dancing around in my head rent-free, and it's disturbing.
Severing Mary's right arm just below the elbow. He then did the exact same thing to her left arm. He then pushed her off a 30-foot embankment into a ravine. And if that wasn't enough, he shoved her into a concrete pipe. Once that was done, he said to her, "There, now you're free." Lawrence then left her there. Mary then fell back into unconsciousness. Lawrence started his van and then left, assuming that she would very quickly succumb to her injuries. However, as shocking as that encounter may have been, even more shocking was that Mary wasn't dead. In fact, Mary woke back up and actually made her way out of that pipe. Realizing the severity of her predicament and knowing she could bleed out very quickly, she acted fast and pushed the stumps of her arms into mud to stop the bleeding. She began to make her way out of the ravine and attempted to get someone, anyone, to stop. But the first car only saw a young girl missing both of her arms, dirty and bloody, and quickly sped away out of fear. The second car thankfully stopped and quickly helped her in the car and wrapped her in a blanket. They rushed her to the nearest hospital, and on the way there, Mary again faded into unconsciousness. Once arriving at the hospital, doctors actually thought Mary was dead. But then when they saw her breathing, they immediately rushed her into the operating room as they knew she had lost a lot of blood and didn't want to risk her body going into shock. Amazingly, Mary survived. And not only did she survive, but she remembered everything that happened. And more importantly, she remembers the name and the face of the man who was responsible for this horrible crime. Mary was able to give a detailed description of the attack and of her attacker. She even had his name, and with that information, police quickly went to work. They fortunately were able to arrest him, and during this time, Mary was recovering. She received prosthetic arms and even returned to school. 6 months later, once Lawrence was arrested, he was then taken to trial, where Mary herself testified against him and pointed out that he was the man responsible for the attack. Lawrence, being the coward that he was, tried blaming both Mary and then making up that another person was there and that they were the ones who attacked her and that he had nothing to do with it. Given his history of violence, the description that Mary gave, and several other pieces of evidence, Lawrence Singleton was convicted, but shockingly only received 14 years. It was the maximum sentence that was allowed at the time, but the judge actually went on record to say the following: "If I had the power, I would send him to prison for the rest of his natural life." However, Lawrence Singleton, a monster who committed acts so horrible that they can't be mentioned, a man who changed a young woman's life forever, a man who showed no remorse and lied about even being involved, only served 8 years before being released. Due to his poor health and good behavior, he was given an early release, but thankfully, his departure wasn't a smooth one. During his first year of probation, he was actually rejected from numerous different towns. In one instance, 400 residents of a neighboring town forced him out of the hotel that he was staying at. At another town, police had to actually intervene to get him to safety after the people of that town said that he wouldn't last a week if he stayed. He ended up having to serve his probation in a trailer literally on the grounds of the prison since nobody wanted him around. And to be honest, I can't blame any of them. And even then, the twisted story of Lawrence Singleton isn't over. After his probation,
I didn't realize he was kicked out of 2 towns, or I don't remember, and then had to serve his probation in a trailer at the jail. That's great. That's awesome.
Was done, Lawrence eventually moved back to his home state of Florida. Yet he was unable to stay out of police radar. He was arrested twice for petty crimes of theft and spent the next few years existing and unfortunately taking up valuable oxygen. He continued living this way until 1997. In the spring of 1997, a neighbor of Lawrence's called the police to report screams coming from his home. Knowing his past, police rushed to the house and were met with a gruesome discovery. Roxanne Hayes, a mother of 3, lay dead on the living room floor of Lawrence Singleton's home. She had been stabbed numerous times, and when police saw Lawrence, they described the scene as him being completely covered in blood. Lawrence was arrested and charged with the death of Roxanne Hayes, and at his trial, someone from Lawrence's past came back to make sure that this time, he went away for life. Mary Vincent, who was now 34 years old, again took the stand and pointed out how he not only changed her life, but had now sadly taken the life of someone else. This testimony proved without any doubt that monsters like Lawrence Singleton do not deserve freedom. They don't deserve life. Thankfully, the justice system had changed since back in the 70s, and Lawrence Singleton was given the death penalty. He died in 2001 of cancer, and I can say that the world is a better place without him. The true hero of this story is Mary Vincent, who since her attack has gone on to not only be an advocate for victims of violent crimes, but has also had 2 sons of her own. She is now an artist which focuses on powerful portrayals of female action figures. To add even more to her badass resume, she even has made customized prosthetics, including one for painting and another for bowling. Mary Vincent's story is one that, while tragic, shows courage, strength, and the resiliency of human life. These were 4 shocking stories and twisted tales. The stories of Ali Nassar Abulaban, Dorothy Jane Scott, Darsh Patel, and Mary Vincent are just a few of the shocking and unbelievable stories that have made their mark on history in one way or another. What may sound like something straight out of a crime novel or your worst nightmares can in fact be just as real as you or me.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Yep, I do remember. This one, I guess I didn't know of it. He looked familiar. I did know this because of the bear. I knew about her because of the podcast. I just didn't realize the name. And I don't think I remembered her. But, you know. Got a lot more space over this way, don't I? I'll have to adjust accordingly. All right. Can't get this. Hold on. Damn it. Okay, this hand here. I gotta. I'm barely holding on. Sorry, I'm just entertaining myself now. All right, I'm gonna end this. I hope you learned. There's some terrible people out there. I don't like to say enjoyed anymore for some of these. It's just kind of creepy. But until next time, I will cover part 2. And I think there's a part 3. But I'm not covering them now. So until next time, have a good day, have a good night.